Welcome to the Marketing Mortgages podcast by Social for Brokers. Now, today I have with me Gary Waters, who is the founder of the Protection Academy that has been running for nearly 4 years now. And you'll see if you're watching on YouTube, you'll probably recognize his face. He was giving us a wave there. Remember, we're on a YouTube, so make sure you check us out on there. Now, looking through Gary's LinkedIn, he has said that he can teach people how to outperform the national average by 600% when it comes to protection. And he's going to talk us through some of his top strategies on exactly how he does this. Now, to be honest, I hadn't heard of Gary up until about 6 months ago. And then I saw his videos popping up all over LinkedIn, some really informative ones when it comes to protection and insurance, and videos that obviously a lot of all the mortgage brokers were obviously interested in because there were loads of comments on them and lots of engagement. So we're going to find out exactly how he gets that engagement and how he teaches his clients how to sell more protection. So Gary, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Looking forward to it.
Thanks very much for coming on. Now, you'll probably see from the video, if you're watching on YouTube, Gary is in a lovely, nice linen shirt, which is nice and cool. And when I jumped on this call beforehand, we were having a chat, and I was like, he's not in England. He can't be in England because last night we had hail and it's about 4 degrees outside. And then he went on to tell me that he actually lives in Bali now. So you made that move 4 years ago, didn't you, Gary?
I did make the move 4 years ago. In fact, there's my air conditioning never too far away, set for 24 degrees because it's boiling here. Don't want to rub it in. So I clearly, as you can tell by my accent, if you don't know Balinese accent, it's not this. So
it's not this one.
No, it's not that. I haven't lost it. I'm from Swansea, but I've been an advisor and living and father and everything in South Wales for all of my life. But 4 years ago, I decided to go traveling just to have a break from the business, the mortgage and protection business, and I had no responsibilities. My son had gone to university, and I just wanted to find out what was out there and have a reset a bit. And 1 month into my travels, I'm in the middle of Borneo, and there was something called the pandemic, which we eventually filtered through to us. That made my decisions change. I managed to get to Bali 4 days before they shut the airports, and my entire COVID experience was spent sitting on a beach in Bali. So nice. I fell in love with the place, and I was like, okay, I need to change my career so I can live this life, but also do what I know in the UK. So this is why Protection Academy exists.
Wow, that's really interesting. I love the story you were telling me before we came on. You were in the jungle in Borneo, then you went to the airport and you were like, there's nobody in the airport, there was nobody in the hotels. We were like, what the hell? It's almost like apocalyptic, isn't it? You go to the jungle for a bit, come back, and everything stopped.
It was the weirdest thing because there was some bits filtered, but I was properly in the jungle. And sometimes I'd be sitting with masks on, but in Asia they do wear masks anyway. So we were sitting. But the little internal flights, we're the only two people, me and my girlfriend, not wearing masks, and everyone was giving us daggers, and we're like, what is going on? So, luckily, we found out that I'd have been in Borneo for 17 months, and that would have been a very different experience for me. So, the universe stepped in, and I had a very life-changing experience. So
fantastic. So now based in Bali. But what I like to do on this podcast is take it back a few years and talk to us about how you got into the mortgage and protection world, how long you've been in it, and how you set up the Protection Academy.
Okay, cool. So I'll give you a brief background because there's a lot of background, right? So I've been a regulated advisor since 1993. So that's 31 years in the industry, in sales, wow. Right? I've done over 25,000 regulated interviews, and it's more than that, right? So my background is investments, but then mortgages and protections, all of that. Then I was terrible at protection, because we don't get taught how to do it. And
good point.
Back then, this is the 90s, I worked for a bank, and the banks were like, look, 4-year clawback, it's not that important. Sell investments, sell the mortgages. It was a different time, right? There's no consumer duty. It was absolute free for all. So you're 22. Someone tells you don't bother doing it. You don't do it, and the training was not very good. The same as it isn't very good now. So I would, email quotes, or hand quotes over. Customer says no, I say okay, sign the form.
Done.
That job done. Except on June the 8th, 1999, which is a Tuesday, I got it wrong. I got asked to see a guy, 23, 24-year-old, about life insurance. He had a young family. His wife had asked me to speak to him, and I give him all the quotes, like we all do. And he just slid him back across the desk. He didn't want to know. He didn't want to know from the start. And it was hot, it was late, and I was like, I couldn't wait for him to go. Honestly, I was relieved when he left. Except 4 days later, that husband and father of a 3-year-old girl was killed in a car accident, and he had no protection because I didn't give it to him. And his wife would ask me to
That's
speak
giving me
to him.
shivers, that has.
It still obsessed me all the time. It's 31 years ago. It's 25 years ago now. And his wife, who'd asked me to speak to him, was my close friend and colleague. And so she lost everything. And I got to sit there and watch it all happen. And I could, when she came in to tell me what had happened, I looked to the left. It was only 4 days, right, of where she was sitting in the same chair he'd been sitting. And I could see the quote. Scottish Widows, 50,000 LTA, £6.19 a month. I'll never unsee those figures. I couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. So she never blamed me, but that changed my life. I was like, this industry sucks. So whereas the old industry carried on the money-making machine, I broke off, and I've been the guy shouting in team meetings and things like this. You're doing it wrong. You need to improve. So I forged my different path. So where I'm coming from is that. So and I have never ever stopped being that passionate about it. So this is why I'm coming from a different angle to everybody else. So that's what it stems from.
Incredible story. Like, that's the first time I've heard that story, and it's having that purpose. I was listening to the High Performance podcast earlier, and it was talking about business owners having a purpose to get up in the morning, and that, the way that you've told that story, that is one of the strongest purposes I've ever heard, for you to teach people. Well, you obviously did it yourself. You practiced what you preach for so many years, but now is to teach people exactly how to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it helps because I didn't, because it's the industry is filled with people who don't know what they're doing with protection, passing down their knowledge or lack thereof to the next generation. So, but now once banks came out of the equation, because they did offer training, it wasn't good, but they offered it, and now we all qualify, do CMAP, and then we're an expert in mortgages and protection. Nobody is passing on any knowledge because nobody's got the knowledge. So it's actually getting worse, not better, because there's no training for us. You can do a CMAP in 2 weeks if you crash course it, and then you can give mortgage and protection advice.
And is that, I think that's a wider conversation in the whole financial services industry. Like, as we say, and a lot of mortgage brokers have said exactly the same as you. You can get your CMAP, but it doesn't mean that you're a mortgage broker. You almost need that. As a mortgage broker, you need the knowledge of where to place cases and what lenders work with certain income, etc., etc. That isn't even offered, let alone conversations about protection. So what do you think is the answer? Is it, say, if we take a network, for example, is it a network to have a specialist mortgage advisor, so somebody who's done it for 40 years, and a specialist protection coach advisor to train all the staff? Or is it upon the advisor themselves? What do you think?
So it's you are correct, right? So eventually you can work out how to do mortgages, because here's this thing: nobody sells a mortgage. Someone phones you up and asks for the mortgage. So it's quite difficult not to succeed, right? And we can then stumble and fall and learn and ask colleagues, phone lenders, and you learn. So normally an advisor, the longer we're advising on mortgages, generally the better we become at it. Practice makes perfect. That is not the same in protection, because it's selling, right? So if you don't know what you're doing, the longer you go, it can actually have the negative impact, because once you lose confidence in your ability, and then your shoulders drop, and then your tone changes, and you become almost apologetic about your advice, you can go worse as life goes, because you're losing confidence, and then you just get handing quotes out, getting disclaimers signed, hoping for the best, or sticking to a DTA because that's all you can sell. So yeah, protection, we need help. And it's not
so what you mean.
Yeah. So there's a few things we can do. The networks which are the closest to what banks were doing years ago, in that it's a lot of money and a lot of advisors. So you've got a lot of people you can help. So they could do with someone like me or Matt Chapman working for them to give coaching to all of the advisors. So that would help. Because again, I'm not saying all of them are the same, but sometimes the person coaching the protection was never any good at protection. They're just copying what they've been taught. So that doesn't necessarily help, because telling someone they've got to sell more protection is like telling someone you've got to do a Rubik's Cube. Well, if you don't show them how to do it,
where do I start? Yeah,
they ain't going to do it, right? So, yeah, that's a good thing. Individual advisors, the ones who actually think I've had enough of this. Look, what happened to me, right? That doesn't going to happen, but you could have a fright. I want to be better. Well, then they are the best people to coach, because they have got a fire in their bellies. So the individuals will learn better, but of course, there's 30, 40,000 advisors in Britain, and there's not many that contact Matt or myself or anybody else.
Yeah.
So there's a few things. The networks can help by giving a much more actual good coaching, and individuals can save 20 years. It took me 24 years to work this out, through blood, sweat, and tears, and absolute. I was terrible, but I sold loads because I would not let go after what happened to me. And then the skills came. So, you can save 20 years by coming to a coach. 20 years of not doing it well. So there's lots of ways you can do it, but, action is the cure-all. So an individual hasn't got to wait for a network to provide it. They can just do it themselves. But the networks are all far more switched on. They're just finding their feet about how to deliver better coaching to advisors.
It'll be interesting to see that, because as the market has cooled down over the last 6-8 months, a lot more mortgage brokers, I've seen it personally, have understood the importance of selling protection. More so, maybe not from the way that you're talking about it, in the sense of you have a defined purpose, but from a sense of to almost not keep the lights on, but increase turnover, and realise that actually we haven't had the time to do that in the past. And I think now people are finding the time, because they realise how, one, important it is for people, but two, how lucrative it can be for a business.
You've hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter what your driving force is. Your driving force is, I'm quiet now. I need to sell more protection. That's a really, come on. We all know the industry pays good money, right? So that's great, right? But protection has got such a morally strong foundation for it, right? So I get a lot of us going, I'm fed up of not protecting customers. I look back at my look, and I'm making 10%, and I've had enough. That's a really good reason to want to be better. But also, we have consumer duty saying, like, you should really, at some point, this is just a soft rule now, right? This will step down. And if anyone remembers PPI, if you don't think we could easily have another one of those without protection process, then you're living in Narnia, right? So there's the regulatory, we got time, so we want to make more money, and there's the moral need to want to protect, and oh my God, you get paid so much money for doing a good job. There's no downside to being better at protection. It's all upside. It's financially and morally perfect.
And this is what you speak to your clients about a lot. And before we get into the 3 main tips that you're going to help people sell protection, talk to us about how you help your clients, Gary. I mean, you're obviously a very good storyteller, and the way that you tell that story got me. So have you got any stories about clients that you've helped and what you do for people and how it's helped them with their business?
Yes. So I'll give you the hybrid view of it. So when I started coaching, I knew what I knew. I knew I was obviously very good at it. I averaged 3 protection sales per mortgage for a decade with 98% persistency, 98% plus persistency for 10 years in a row. So I know what I'm talking about. But I didn't know how to get what was in there out there. So I would overwhelm people. I tried 2-day sessions, 1-week sessions, which is what the industry does. How many networks have a 1-day seminar where they spend 8 hours talking about protection? Everyone gets their free pen, their free mug, goes home, and it's in there and out there, right? There's a reason university isn't 1 week long. we
Yeah.
don't learn that way. So I had to find out the hard way that you can't just take 20 years. I can see people's faces. It's overwhelming, right? So anyway, so I then spent the last 4 years learning how to communicate, how to train,
Right. Okay.
learn. How do I change what's in there into something that's really understandable? So now the process is over several months. But the foundation is always the same for all of them, because it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what your experience is. The mistakes we make or the errors we do are pretty much uniform, and I've seen them all, right? So they're pretty much uniform. So it's quite easy to help most people be a bit better or even a lot better with just correcting what they're doing, right? I always say it's not about one big killer word pattern. This isn't 1985. It's about incremental tweaks. And because it's lots of them, anybody, even if they're quiet or shy, they can do it, right? When I wrote the training, there was a woman I used to work with. Her name's Margaret. You wouldn't know, she's just fine. And she was the shyest, weakest, but nicest person I ever worked with in mortgages. And she was terrified of her own shadow. So I thought, right, I'll do it that I could teach her, and then she'd be able to do it. So it's designed that anybody that just listens, it works for everybody. It's not very difficult once you know the process. So that's how I stand with all of them. The system of training is always the same. After the first few months, every person is different. Some will just go and take the ball and run. Some are so ingrained in old habits or their personality types that it's then tailored to make sure that person leaves my care when they are doing 600% plus, more than that normally, of what the national average is. So it's more specific to the individuals. Yeah.
I like the way that you say those first few months is that incremental change. It reminds me of my favourite book, The Compound Effect, where
Yeah.
just 1% better every day, 100 days, you're going to be 100% better. And it's like that with anything, I suppose. I speak to clients about social media. If it's just doing a one post every week, two posts every week, three, in a year's time, you're going to be posting with so much more confidence. And it sounds very similar. What I love as well is you obviously went away and you said, I've got all this knowledge in my head. How do I put it into something that is tangible and in order? Absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So can you give us your 3 top tips to help people sell more protection, please, Gary?
Yes. So it might be 5 tips. Can I have the other 2 free of
Okay. You're
charge?
giving us
No
bonuses?
problem.
Yeah.
Right. So firstly, you have to set. This cannot be a mortgage only interview with an apologetic attempt to sell some insurance at the end. The customer only want a mortgage. We all know that. So if we pander to that and then start giving them quotes, start showing them what it costs per month, and then getting them a dip and everything else, and then submitting a mortgage, and we haven't really mentioned protection, well done. You've just lost all your business or most of your business every single time because you've given them the only thing they wanted. Once they get it, you have such a rapidly diminishing power of importance in their lives that how many people have been ghosted when you try and get the customer back in for protection after the offer letter, but they promised they'd come back. All right, don't do it. We are in control of the interview, not the customer. So they're there for mortgage and protection. You're a mortgage and protection advisor. So tell them at the start, my advice comes in 2 separate but equally important halves. The mortgage today, but once we found out the enough details on that, I will then take care of the second equally important half, which is making sure you guys are protected. So that theme repeated and never deviated tells the customer you are a mortgage and protection advisor and they are having 2 presentations of you. So it stops them thinking it's a mortgage only interview. And that's our control.
Okay.
That's
I'm
our
making a
fault if
note
they
of that.
think it's a mortgage interview. That's your fault as an advisor. Mortgage and protection. So that's the word. Set your stall early. Never deviate. If someone's in a rush, stop, slam the brakes on. This is your name going on that document. If you don't protect them, something happens. Guess who they're coming
to
for?
you.
Right? So that's the first bit. Second one, use the fact find properly. They will tell us everything in the fact find because we haven't given them the only thing they want, the mortgage. Right? So,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So we tend not to ask enough about protection. So we don't. Some people let people guess their sick pay. We let some say, "Oh, I've got a good one with Aviva. It's 55 quid. I think it's joint. It's a good one." Well, what's that? What is that? That's no information at all, right? That sounds great, Mr. Customer. Can you get me the details? Because I can't submit the mortgage without that information. They'll get the details, right? So use control. You don't even come back to you. They won't. Okay, so there's the other thing about a fact find. We
I'm
always
making a
use
note
it.
of all these.
Yeah. So the other thing we do as a fact find, it's a mortgage fact find, and it gathers facts. Hang on. This is the most personal information and the longest time we're going to spend getting to know the customer and building rapport so they get to like us and get familiar with us. Let's ask more than that. Let's read between the lines. Yes, who do you work for? What's your date of birth? Awesome. That'll get you a mortgage. It won't get you protection. What do they want to talk about from here, not there? Children. What are the children's first names? What do the children do? What do they do? What are their hobbies? What are their passions? I had one guy recently they got a dog, 12 years old, diabetes, 200 quid a month vet fees. And I said, like, what's the dog's name? I don't know. Well, that dog is like their child. So if you want to give them income protection and you say, look, this income protection will make sure that that dog can continue to have vet bills if you're off sick, that is selling to the heart, not to the head. We ask the questions, dig a bit more, so get exact amount of sick pay. What's important? What do they like talking about? Find out that stuff, because then we can make protection far more relatable. Otherwise, you're just throwing quotes, and it's the most transactional thing you can do. So that is the second point. Use fact find properly. Okay. Third bit: lock in the protection appointment before you submit the mortgage. Once you submit the mortgage, you've given them the only thing that they want. And they're not coming back. So don't wait for offer. In this fast-paced world, you've lost them. Right? Some of you might be lucky enough to do it, but you have lost them. They're dealing with solicitors, estate agents. They go to IKEA to buy matching stuff for the new house for the baby's room. They're not coming back to talk about insurance or get quotes off you. No chance. Control the process. It's two halves. When you submit the mortgage, give them the protection advice at the same time. They'll turn up for it because you're submitting the mortgage. 100% turn up for it, guaranteed. I'll submit the mortgage and give you the protection advice at exactly the same time. Two halves complete in one go. Everyone will turn up. So that's how you get. So those are the first three tips to help you get customers, 100% of customers sitting up in front of you, including PTs and rewards. Next two. Prep your research before you go in to give advice. This is why if you don't know what sick pay they've got, how can you tell them what they need? And then there's this mamby-pamby conversation where they go, no, I think I got better than that. Can you find out for me? Yeah. They were. You just give them advice. So you've got to get the information first. This is your, it's easy. Just tell them to get it before you submit. So prep your quotes. What is important? Because I know we sort of favour our favourite things. You might be a life and kick kind of guy. Well, if someone's got no sick pay, then life and kick isn't the best thing for them, right? So prep your quotes, work out your alternative quotes, just one alternative for each one. And I still did it when I was an advisor. I used to practice what I'm going to say before seeing them. Because if you're nervous, they'll know and you won't get sales. Right. So that's the next thing. Prep it and present it to the customer with them sitting there, ideally on Zoom or any type of visual platform like this. Could you imagine how boring this conversation would be to everybody watching, and to you, Chris, and to me, if you and me were on a phone and these screens were blank? Oh my God. Right? So you're presenting protection, potentially complicated and potentially boring. Let's use all the weapons at our disposal. Get them on a screen.
Hand gestures.
Another reason. Let's say I'm talking to you, Chris, right? And your wife doesn't work. So I'm talking to you. I've always talked to you because you're the decision maker for the mortgage. That is no reason not to have the wife on the call, because wives, especially mothers, tend to be, for hundreds of thousands of years, the protector of the family. Right? They tend to think more there. Men tend to be, if I break my leg, I'll rub some dirt on it and I'll be back in work tomorrow. Right? So the advice affects two people. If you got both on the call, it stops one going, oh, it sounds good. Give me the details. I'll speak to the wife or I'll speak to the husband. And it gets both decision makers on there. And trust me, you'd rather them have the discussion or the argument or the disagreement whilst you're there to referee and help than leave them go away and come back. So always present to two. And if you can use Zoom or Teams, never do on phone. And whatever you do, don't email all your advice or your quote. I'll know and I'll come round your house, right? Don't email quotes. It's complicated, boring, and it's guaranteed way to diminish your sales results. So never email quotes.
Wow.
It's a pop-out. So
I don't know if anybody else listening, that was incredible. I'm sat here just pumped. I think you've got such a good way of putting them across. Let me just recap those 5 top tips for everybody listening. Number 1 is talk to them about the importance. So split it 50-50. 50% is a mortgage, 50% is protection. And they're just both as equally as important as the others. Number 2, use the fact find. Control that fact find out all the figures and use the soft facts from the fact find. Dogs, kids, hobbies, all those soft facts really help. Number 3, lock in the protection appointment before you submit the mortgage, because they are there for the mortgage. They're not there for the protection. So tell them that you're going to submit the mortgage only with the protection appointment. Number 4, prep your research before you give advice. Gary was talking about how he was talking through his appointments before he did jump on. And then number 5, get them on screen and try and always present to both of the decision makers, because it makes it a lot easier. They are incredible tips. And I think anybody that takes those into practice, I just know, I'm not a protection advisor myself, but there's a lot of, from when I was an estate agent, there's a lot of things in there that are sales that will help you sell more protection. Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, without learning a single word pattern, learning a single new word pattern, if you do those, you'll get more sales.
Wicked. Right, we're going to speak about social media now. Going to ask you 2 questions here, quick fire questions. What's your favourite platform at the moment on social media? And what is your client's favourite platform? So your clients are mortgage and protection advisors. What platform are they finding best to win business on?
Great question, and two different answers to that. Okay, yeah. So me, I'm currently only utilizing Instagram and LinkedIn. Facebook is in its infancy. I was quite late to the business side of that thing, so I'm leaving that percolate. For me, LinkedIn is my favorite platform because listen, I am business to business, right? So it's me talking to you guys. Mm-hmm. Where are you? You're on Instagram, right? Yeah. So I get on LinkedIn, so it's easy to find you, connect with you, and that's how I've networked most. Insta's doing well. I think I've got 1,000 people following me in 7 months without organically. So that's cool. But yeah, for me, Instagram. Now, for my clients, it's not, because I see a lot of mortgage advisors doing helpful videos on Instagram to help to advise customers. But if your friends, if your only connections are other mortgage and protection advisors, you're just talking to people who are mortgage and protection advisors. So it's not really the best. I mean, unless you target different people on there, certain business types of people, that's different. But if you're just going, this is my network, here's my stuff, you're only appealing to people who already know what you're talking about. So Instagram, Facebook, this is where you're going to see customers who are trying to find advice, not other advisors. So that's the best tool for my
Facebook and Instagram. Awesome. And the thing with protection is, let's be honest, it can be boring on social media. As soon as somebody sees a video about insurance, they're going to switch off. What should people post about to start? I don't think you can directly generate leads off protection on social media, but what can they create videos around to increase the awareness of these products? What would you say?
Right. So there's a fine line on this one. So now, if you're a mortgage and protection advisor, which I guess most of who we're talking to are mortgage and protection advisors, I know there's some protection only which have to get in leads, but I'm trying to talk to the bulk of people, okay? Because if you're protection only, it is slightly more difficult because, as you just said, Chris, people
you haven't got the mortgage.
Look for a mortgage. They want a mortgage. Nobody is going, oh my God, I'm really concerned about my lack of income protection. That's not a real thing, right? So, it'll be one in 1,000. Okay, so what you're best off doing is, because you need to get the customer, right? If you haven't got a customer sitting in front of you, and in our industry, mortgage and protection, they need to be there for a mortgage first for you to then provide the protection advice. So I still wouldn't, if you think I want to do protection as much as possible, I still wouldn't do all protection related videos. Because you're going to scream, I'm going to try and sell you some insurance later on, bro. So, I would pepper it to flex your muscles and prove to these customers who are following you that you know your shit, right? So that's all I would do with protection. And I say this to my advisors, is like, because they get very keen because they're in the middle of this protection training. They're like, I want to share. I was like, bits. Not all of it, because you'll overwhelm people. So then still should be predominantly mortgages. In both areas, you do not want to be trying to sell anything. Call me with the number one provider in your area. Although I did that until I knew what I was doing. So help, give. So what are the most common questions you get from customers when they phone up and they're shopping around? Those are the questions everybody else wants to know. So do helpful videos where it could be how much, the heading is how much can the first time borrow, or how much deposit does the first time buyer need in 2024? And then you do a little video on that. For the protection, it could be anything. What does life insurance mean? Don't make it complicated. What does children's critical illness do? Pick something you know about that someone might ask you a question on, and just to, I get asked this question loads of times by my customers. There's 3 points you need to know about this product, and just make it short and friendly and helpful, and never put a call to action on the video. You're just helping. If they're following you and you're being helpful, they will automatically call to action when they need, because you're not the guy begging for business all the time. So that's what I would say is
love it.
tips.
Before we get in the strategy question, that's something that I'm a huge believer in, that you should be answering the questions that you get asked over and over. And I always talk about the notebook. So keep a notebook with you by the side of your desk. Whenever you're on the phone to clients, write down every single question you get asked for a week. And I promise that notebook will be worth thousands to you over the course of a year. Because if you answer all the questions in that notebook over the course of the year, you're going to add value to the audience, and you're going to answer a lot of the questions that the audience are already thinking. So it's almost like you're reading their mind, especially, say, for example, this time of year, it's April that we're recording this. You're probably going to get asked on the phone, my remortgage is up, but we're looking to move at the end of this year. If we fix now, does it mean that we can't move at the end of the year? That's a social media post. When you upload that, somebody sat on their sofa thinking, I might move in the spring, I might move when the kids are back at school in September. That you're answering that question and you're giving them value. So I'm a huge believer in that. Yeah. Right, before we get into the strategy question, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice as a thank you for coming on. So what was the name of the charity that you would like us to make the donation to, Gary?
It's the Bali Children Foundation. So they basically help to pay for extra education for the younger children in the poorer, more rural areas of Bali, because they tend to get pulled out of school early. So they do a really good job for helping people with education in this country.
Fantastic. We'll make that donation for you. So we're going to pretend now in the strategy question, which a lot of people do love on the podcast, we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland from South Wales. You've got a laptop, a mobile phone and an internet connection. What would you do to start generating new mortgage business?
Okay, so if you change the location to Bali, I can tell you this isn't theory. This is exactly what I did. So it's right? Let's put a warm coat on instead of this, right? Now, firstly, I'd move to Bali, but let's say I'm in Scotland, right? So I've got those three things. This is what I did. And I had no money because I was down here with right. So I had no I couldn't throw money or anything. I was on furlough here. Okay, so one, make sure you reach out and start connecting with people. If it's on Facebook, do that and start connecting with people. So the more you've got, the better. And that's free, right? To send friend requests, it costs 0 pence and hardly any time, right? And the same on Insta. Start following people that you think might be in your client base, right? So that's cost nothing. Then start posting. Now, if you haven't got many customers, many followers or friends or whatever the platform calls them, right? You have to accept the fact that you're not going to get 15 phone calls on your first video, even though when I posted my first video, I was sitting by the proverbial phone waiting for the call. It didn't come, right? So
you thought the same thing. You thought if I put a post out, I'm going to get the phone to ring.
oh yeah, I was spending the money already. It took me much. I'll tell you how long it took, right? But so I can tell you now, this is still me. I'm the same guy I was 4 years ago. I'm better at what I'm doing now, but it's same knowledge, right? Same energy. I got one client in the first year. I made £495 in my first 12 months.
Wow.
And by the third month, I realized I needed to learn how to do it. Okay, so this is hopefully will save you a couple of years, right? So you can't be daunted. You can't go, I tried that social media stuff and I done 10 videos, I didn't get anything. Right, what, only 10? Right, so here's the deal. If you do it for 3 months and you get a couple of clients, you've done something well, you got lucky or something, right? So it's consistency. Look at the people that you see on here. Now, Chris is an awesome example. Ash Boland is another good one. I often you see his videos. If you do see me on there, I'm every day. Matt Chapman, every single day, right? I only started properly doing it. I was doing the occasional one, and I was doing email marketing. I've tried everything. Email marketing, it's a bit salesy and a bit thing and a bit hit and miss, and it ends up in spam. 4% of all unsolicited emails are opened. 96% go into spam or never get opened. Right? So put your energy on something else. So share your knowledge, share your help, written posts, video posts. If you're nervous about doing videos, get over it. You'll do the first couple of crap ones and then you'll get better and better. And if you don't, then somebody is going to be a bigger personality, more helpful, and people will listen to them more. So start with written posts, but practice. The beauty of practicing is you record it on your phone. You can just not send it. Have a look, right? So that's important. The more you do, the better you'll be. Then consistency. Keep posting helpful information. The beauty of the consistency is by the time you've posted 2 months worth of stuff, right? And let's say you start off with 1 a week, really do more, right? 3 a week minimum, right? But after a few months, after 3 months, you're going to have 60, 90 videos or posts. Well, they don't go in the bin.
Yep, love this.
Actually, this was your video, Chris. I watched one of yours, and you said just reappropriate them, and I was like, "Ha, that's genius!" I had 60 videos at that time. I live in the dream. So you haven't got to keep do hundreds of thousands of them. Mortgage people have been asking the same questions for 40 years. It's same answers.
And that's what I would say is when you're doing those videos, try to make them evergreen, where don't talk about the base rate went up 2 weeks ago or we've just had a new product out. Just talk about rates are like this at the minute because they're going to fluctuate up and down. Do you know what I mean? Try to make it evergreen. And then a good tool that you can use is something called recur post. And what that does is you can post something and say, I want this reposted every 3 months from now until eternity. So it's a good way to reuse your posts as well. It's a free tool for everyone.
Right.
But sorry, Gary, you carry on. You were on a roll there.
No, I'm now listening to your post. Right, give me a link. I want to know what that is. I've got to do it myself. Right. So, and then of course, listen. If you're a mortgage and protection advisor, you're going to get customers from other sources. So just know that repetition and it is the consistency. The key is the ones who are going to do well are the ones who do not get disheartened and keep doing it. If you've been doing this a few years, you know enough information. You can help so many people. Stick to it. Do not give up, because it could be the next video that goes viral or gets a bunch of customers in. It only needs one. It only needs like one every couple of weeks that gets hits, right? And then it's like suddenly you get a snowball effect. So the ones who succeed, all the ones you see on videos like us and everybody else, do not stop. It ever
But you
stop.
just be consistent. And it looks like we create so much content, but essentially all we're doing is taking one question. Say, for example, it's how much can I afford on a mortgage? Well, as a mortgage broker, what I would do is I'd do a video on that. And then what I'd do is make sure that video goes out this week and in 2 months' time. So that's 2 bits of content. I'd do a written post with the graphic about how much you can borrow, a carousel, and then maybe a podcast episode on it. I've just got that one question. I've not had to reinvent the wheel. I'm just answering it in 3 or 4 different formats. And that's the key to creating more good quality content. And I'm sure Gary will agree on you with that.
Agreed. And again, all of the things, there's not a penny of expenditure. There's no ad campaign, there's nothing. All those things I did on £420 a month furlough, because I didn't need money. I just sat in front of the computer and I just learned and repeated and repeated. So you can do it on a small budget
Love it.
and a bit of time.
Fantastic. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people connect with you if they want to have a chat about the Protection Academy?
Great. So LinkedIn or Instagram, you could either DM me or they'll be linked to Calendly, and you will jump on generally it's about a 30-minute like a discovery chat where you tell me more about your current situation, and then I'll show you how it works, how it does. And then it's just like you can see me talking now. It's relaxed as hell. It's like this.
Perfect. And it's Gary Waters, which is Waters if you're looking for him on LinkedIn. Gary, Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been really insightful. Even for myself who doesn't sell protection, I've found some of those points incredible. So I would go back, rewind this episode, take all the notes down, and connect with Gary on all of his social media channels for more tips like this.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Cheers, mate.